Hi, me again. So, we're going into part 4. We're already in part 4 of the Wagnerian pieces. And this is the first time we do not have an opera. I will not translate the original name of it because it doesn't really make sense in English. It doesn't also make much sense in German, but I don't want to confuse you with this. So we're just going to talk about this one, Tristan and Isolde, which is obviously the most, well, it's basically the Romeo and Juliet of musical theatre history, even though it's much younger, obviously. But now we're gonna go into the really, really, really long pre-story. This is gonna take a long while. I'm so sorry. This is, there's really not much going on in the actual piece, but there's a lot going on before. So, let's begin. Basically, this is something that plays or that takes part on the British Isles. We have, on one hand, we have Cornwall, which is where most of this takes part, and we have Ireland. So Isolde is the princess of Ireland, okay? And then there's the king of Cornwall, who's called Meier, and he's not his stepson, but he is kind of his protege, is Tristan. So Tristan is kind of like the Prince of Cornwall, because the king doesn't have heirs. Okay, good, wonderful. So previously Ireland won a war against Cornwall. So the Cornwallese, I'm so sorry. So Cornwall has to pay tribute, or has to pay kind of taxes to Ireland for losing this war. And then one day Tristan says, no, this is not going on anymore. This is absurd, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna go and we're gonna fight this out one-on-one, and then we're gonna talk about it again, because I'm one of the greatest heroes of all time. And on the other hand, in Ireland, Isolde is one of probably the most intelligent women of her time. She's basically a doctor. She knows everything about poisons, about how to resurrect people, basically. And she's really, really a great doctor. Someone there's no one else like her. But she's still the princess. So she has this fiancé who's called Morold. And he is kind of the greatest hero of Ireland, but probably, again, much older than her, because why not? Anyway, Morold and Tristan basically meet on an unnamed island in between Cornwall and Ireland. And obviously Tristan is much stronger, because this would have ended here if Morold would have killed Tristan. But Tristan kills Morold. And this might be a bit... But he cuts his head off, and basically Morold's body is buried on this island, and his head is sent back to Isolde. They have never met at this point. But because Isolde is a very intelligent woman, she basically poisoned Morold's sword. So if ever Tristan was touched or hurt by Morold's sword, he would eventually die because it's poisoned. And Tristan has got this. He's got a wound going on. And obviously Isolde is really mad, because not only did Morold lose the fight and she doesn't have a fiancé anymore, which probably means that she gets a new one soon, but it also means that they now have to pay taxes to Cornwall. which is, of course, Cornwall is pretty, I don't know how big it was at the time, but I was in Cornwall once when I was about 10 years old. But anyway, paying as Ireland taxes to Cornwall seems like a big deal. On the other hand, Tristan in Cornwall feels horrible, and there are no doctors who are able to help him. He's got this wound, it won't close, he's dying. He's really dying. And the only way, they say, there's Isolde, she's probably the only one who can help you. And he's like, guys, I killed her fiance. Like, what? What's going, no. This is, like, no. But ultimately, he gets so worse, so bad, that they, like, get him into a little boat and then send him off to Ireland. And he's found on the shore by some probably fishermen. They see he's hurt, and they get him to the castle. For some unknown reason, Tristan has got his sword with him, which is crucial for the story, because I really wanted to not say this, but it's unfortunately crucial for the story. Basically, Isolde had the head of Morold, and she prepared it for burial, and she cleaned out the wound as much as it goes, and she found a piece of a sword at the head of Morold. And again, how stupid can Tristan be when he goes there with his damaged sword in which a piece is missing? Yeah, like, stupidity. Anyway, basically there are productions in which Isolde actually wears this part of the sword around her neck, which is kind of really odd, but never mind. So she's got this piece of the sword, the missing puzzle piece, basically. And Tristan gets, he comes in, he's really miserable, he's really horrible, and Isolde does not, I don't know, she doesn't connect the dots, kind of, that this is the exact poison that she used on Morold's sword, and she just cures him. But, obviously, because this is still a drama and we're having a lot of deaths at the end of this, she finds the sword of Tristan, and of course she's like, this guy, he called himself Tantris. Just saying, he also called himself Tantris. How did nobody else notice this? This guy calls himself Tantris, but maybe he's Tristan. And then she basically first looks at him and says, oh fuck, I rescued the enemy. And she tries to kill him. She basically has his sword, his own sword, at his throat, and she wants to kill him, and he opens his eyes. He opens his eyes, and he doesn't look at the sword, he doesn't look at the hand, he looked into her eyes. And this is the moment where they fall in love, basically, and she lets the sword down, it falls to the floor, and she flees. And she doesn't know what to do because she cannot kill him. This was not what she was meant to do. She's a savior. So she doesn't know what to do. She's in love with him. And she decides to just cure him. She decides to just cure him and get him on his way so that she would never have to see him again. So she does that. And when she brings him down to the shore, to his little boat, he kind of says, I owe you everything, I owe you my life, I'll always be true, in this middle-aged way, and I owe you everything, basically. She says, yeah, okay, just leave, go. And Tristan leaves and he goes back to Cornwall, But he can't stop thinking about Isolde. Because same way that Isolde fell in love with him, he fell in love with her. And it's this horrible kind of love that can never be fulfilled, because he's still not, he may be a protege of the king, but he's not noble enough to marry the princess of Ireland. But he always dreams about her. He has a picture of her painted, basically, and everyone at the court says, oh yeah, fraternizing with the enemy, are we? Yeah, for sure. And he does not know what to say. He does not know what to say. And then his best friend, Milot, says, hey bro, the easiest way to shut them all up is if you said that you're not dreaming about her for yourself, but that you're dreaming about her for the king. And for some reason, this is the most logical explanation. And Tristan goes and says, hey, Marke, me, Tristan, by the way, I've met this beautiful woman. I think she would be up for marriage. I will go get her. Which is a horrible idea, obviously. And Marke is not so much into it because he lost his wife and he doesn't want another wife. He's too old for this stuff. But obviously then Tristan has to say, oh, if you don't do this, I'll leave. Which is, again, absurd and stupid. But he's so proud, and he's basically being heard constantly by the other knights at the castle, that he leaves. In the sense of Marcus says, it's okay, I want Isolde as my wife. Which makes a really strange thing later on. Never mind. Anyway, basically, Tristan goes off with the ship to Ireland, and then he comes in as Tristan. He's now the protege of the king, not this poor Chantris guy who was hurt, but now he's Tristan. He's the man. And he says, oh, by the way, you still owe us taxes, but you know what? Maybe we don't do that. Maybe I'm gonna just take your daughter for my king. And everyone says, you wanna have the king's only daughter? Like, are you serious? And unfortunately he is. So the contracts are signed, not by Isolde, of course, because why would she? But the contracts are signed and everyone's getting ready for getting Isolde to go back. And Isolde, of course, is heartbroken. She's really at her end's wits. No, she's really down. She's really broken, kind of, because there was this guy she loved, and she thought she would never see him again. And then he comes back, behaves like an a-hole, and now wants her to marry his very old king. So she's really down. But you remember that she knows all about poisons, don't you? Not only her, but also her mother, Isolde. Yeah, another Isolde. Their mother and daughter are both called Isolde. I don't know. This is really weird. Anyway, mother and daughter are called Isolde, and the mother also knows a few things, and she gets a few poisons, a few things to help, to heal, but also a love potion for the king and Isolde to fall in love and then have a long and happy marriage. Whatever. She packs all this stuff. But Isolde before, and I want to say at this point, if you get triggered by suicidal thoughts, if you get triggered by death, this is not the video for you. I'm so sorry for just telling you this 14 minutes in. I'm really sorry. But basically, she gets out the poison, the really strong, kills you in a moment poison. And she marks it in her way and also takes it with her. So Isolde is all on her own. She just has her maid Brangäne with her. And they leave by ship. This is the point where the story begins. This is the point. Just all this is before the story even starts. And as I said, what's actually happening in the story is not much. It is not. I'm so sorry. Because now we're going into the first act. First act, basically, Isolde is still heartbroken. She can't be consoled by Brangäne whatsoever. And Brangäne is kind of head over heels, almost a bit, for Tristan. And she says, oh, he's so good, he's so great, he's so wonderful, woohoo! Why can't you be happy? He'll be your knight, it's so cool. And he's always like, do you really know what this guy is? And she tells her the story, how he called himself Tantris and came to the shore. And Brangäne is like, oh, fuck. They also try to get Tristan to come and to talk with Isolde, but he will not. But at the very end of the journey, Tristan comes because Isolde says, I will not leave this ship unless he comes here and we talk this out. Okay? This is it. And of course Tristan has to come. And Isolde before says to Brangäne, you're gonna get this poison and you're gonna have it in like a chalice or something. And just saying, just put it there. And Brangäne is like, why would you need poison? I mean, if you really love this guy, then we could use the love potion. And he's always like, no, I want the poison. Just do it. Of course, Brangäne does not do this. She uses instead the love potion. Great idea. Great. Wonderful. Super. No, it's not. Tristan comes basically, and this is where we come back to my favorite singer. Because Waltraud Meier, who's my favorite singer, if you watched Lohengrin, you know this. She's my favorite singer, and she has Isolde so nuanced. And through what she does with the facial expression, what she does with the body, she tells this story so wonderfully of being torn between hating this guy and loving him and being forced into this marriage by him, which makes her hate him. And then he says, she says, I'm gonna kill you. I'm going to do it now. I swore that if there was no man who would kill you, then I would. And he says, yeah, okay, go. If you like Moral so much, then that's fine. And she's like, and you see it in her face. And she says, like, I don't like Moral. I like you stupid idiot. But you don't seem to notice. And this is played so beautifully by Waltraud Meier and also Siegfried Jerusalem. They were kind of the dream couple of Bayreuth in the 90s. And they have this amazing chemistry. And they played it so wonderfully. And you see they genuinely like each other as friends. They genuinely like each other, and they're so great at performing, especially these scenes. I always get goosebumps when I see this. Ultimately, Isolde says, okay, we're gonna drink out of this chalice now, and then we're best friends again. And he says, we're already best friends. I mean, your country and mine. And she's like, no, I didn't forgive you. And I think he knows. No, not doing Taylor Swift now. It's one of my favorite songs by Taylor Swift anyway. He knows that this would probably be his end. And in this way, he also says like the last words before he drinks. And he makes basically this toast on his life in a way. And he drinks. But Isolde says, no, you're drinking the whole stuff. I want to have it. So she gets this off of him and drinks. Woohoo. So they both fall down, and then there's this longer orchestral interlude, basically, in which they fall down. In some productions, not this one, but in some productions she also like feels her blood and feels her pulse and says, why is this not getting, this is still too strong. I should be dying here. Come on, people. But she doesn't, because it was still the love potion. We're going to talk about the love potion like at the end. But still, they don't die, and they look at each other and they fall into each other's arms. And then Brangäne realizes that it might not have been the best idea in the world to give these two people a love potion like 2 minutes away from Cornwall. In the original Middle Age, saga, it was actually that it was a few days earlier, so they had a physical relationship, if you know what I mean, which they do not have with Wagner. This is purely platonic, because at the time he was having a physical relationship with like the lady who was housing him, while the other one was his good friend, but who cares about this? And he wrote this for her while also having this physical relationship with her, while writing this piece about a purely platonic relationship. This never goes above kissing, and it doesn't even really in this production, because I don't think Waltraud, Meier and Siegfried Jerusalem ever kissed. At least not, this is kind of a stage kiss. Anyway, they kiss. Brangäne has like this light coming up saying maybe this wasn't the brightest of ideas, and they are in Cornwall now. So there's the king coming on, and he says, oh wow, great, wonderful, this is so good. And like Kurvenal, who is Tristan's valet, kind of his valet, he and Brangäne, they got Tristan and Isolde separated, and Isolde gets, she goes to Marke, she has to. And this is the end of the first act. As I said, there's not much happening in the first act. It's 1 hour 20 minutes, and the last 20 minutes are Tristan and Isolde together, and the whole hour before is basically what happened before, the prelude, of course, etc. So, second act, in which even less happens. Second act is basically, it's evening. Isolde and Marke have been married for a while. Basically every night when the king's away, Tristan and Isolde meet in like kind of a secret garden or something. And I want to say at this point that the story of Snow White is also based on Tristan and Isolde. And I'm gonna explain you why. Because, as I said, Tristan and Isolde had a physical relationship on the ship in the original. So, obviously, when she married Marke, let's say, if I use the same metaphor as in the text, her white dress was dirty. You know what I mean. But Brangäne's white dress was in perfectly good shape. So, since the white dress is necessary for the wedding night, Brangäne would spend the first part of the night with Marke, and then later Isolde, while Tristan and Isolde had their way, and then Isolde would come in when both dresses are dirty. But Isolde was so afraid that Brangäne would once speak about what happened, that one day she said, "Oh, Brangäne, I've got such a migraine, I need some herbs from the forest." And she sent hunters with her. We know where this is going. She told the hunters that Brangäne needs to be killed. Brangäne went into the woods with them, but when they tried to kill her, she was so beautiful and so pure and so perfect that they weren't able to kill her. So they said, "Hide, go here, hide, we're gonna tell something." They went back to Isolde, and in the meantime, this is where this is going in two different directions. This is when Isolde gets remorseful about what happened, and she says, "Oh, maybe this was a mistake, sending Brangäne away to die." And the huntsmen come in and they say, "Oh, by the way, we got this heart, said you needed it." And she was like, "No, what did you do? This is horrible, impossible, whatever." And they said, "Oh, I would do anything for her to be back here." So the huntsman said, "1 second," and went back to the woods and told Brangäne, "Hey girl, she wants you back." So Brangäne and Isolde were friends again, but there was this Snow White-esque interlude. Also Snow White, because the dress was white as snow. This is a much better explanation, Disney, take that, than she was born during a snowstorm, please. Anyway. So, back to the second act. Again, Tristan and Isolde have met a few times, and this is another time. But Brangäne, she says, "Girl, I don't think you should do this tonight. I've got a bad feeling about this." And Isolde says, No. My husband's on the hunt. I need this alone time with Tristan. You go and watch, okay? Good. So Brangäne says, I really don't think this is a good idea. This Melot guy, I don't like him. This is not good. And Isolde says, no, just go. Would you have just listened? Just saying. So, then of course, immediately the horns are gone. And by horns, I mean like the hunting horns. They're gone. Brangäne is gone. Tristan comes, and it basically sounds as if they're going to bed with each other. Let's be honest with this. This is 40, and I want to say 40. I think for you it's probably 40, since you see this other way around. 40 minutes of love duet. This is so, just listening to it is physically strenuous, but to sing this, Waltraud Meier once said that Isolde sings in this evening 2 hours. I mean, yes, the Swifties will come at me now, but Wagner without a mic over an orchestra is a bit more difficult than what Taylor Swift does. This Tristan and Isolde was called unsingable in the 1900s, and let's be honest, most people can't sing it. I certainly wouldn't be able to sing it, but anyway, 40 minutes of love duet in which that doesn't really happen much, but they have a plan, and again, a trigger warning, they have a plan to die together and be together in death. Because as I may have said before, like in Flying Dutchman, death is freedom for Wagner. You're freed of the confines of life, of living, and this is freedom for them, basically. Because in life they can never be together. Even if Mark had died today, which it probably won't do, it wouldn't be okay for Isolde to suddenly marry his protege. I mean, this would be kind of weird. He's kind of like her nephew. This is, no. Obviously, Like, very, very obviously, they get disturbed. And there's Melot coming in, Tristan's best friend, coming in and saying, hey, king, told you, I said it. The queen is having her way with your nephew. And obviously, I'm so sorry, this was my mom. This is still my mom, I'm so sorry. But never mind. She came in here while I was filming, so doesn't matter. Basically, Marke is really disappointed, and this is so much worse than if he was, I don't know, throwing things around, but he's really disappointed, and he's not, and this is kind of horrible, he's not disappointed in his wife, but in Tristan. And I always think this might also be a parallel to the history, because I think if, like, the friend of Wagner, with whom's wife Wagner was having an affair with, if he found it out, he probably would also talk to Wagner and not to his wife, because the wife couldn't go away. Anyway, Marke was really disappointed, and he has a wonderful monologue about this, and then it's basically Tristan saying, hey, Isolde, I know this is the end of our story. I'm so sorry. Will you follow me to the realm of the night? And I mean night just with an N, not with a K-N. And she says, yes, I'm gonna follow you wherever you go. This is us. This is our love story. If this is supposed to end now, then it's supposed to end. I love you. And in this production, he basically takes measures into his own hands and tries to kill Isolde the same way she tried to kill him. She's sitting in front of him and he's having the sword at her throat. But then Melot is like, is anyone still paying attention? He can't just kill the queen of what are we talking about? This is absurd. And Tristan has this light moment of saying, hey, you are the one who talked me into going to Ireland. You are the one who talked me into meeting her this way tonight. You are the source of all my problems. Why? Basically, you are, well, the green-eyed monster has possessed you. And he says, you have been in love with Isolde all along. You're jealous of me. What? We're gonna fight now. And they fight, and Tristan gives up. He gives up, takes his hands up, and Morold, this would have ended very different if this was Morold, and Melot gets him with his sword. This is the end of the second act, and we're having a third act incoming. And you might say, wait, is this guy then dying for the third act straight? And the answer is yes, he is! He is definitely dying for the whole third fucking act. So, I'm sorry for saying the F word. But anyway, this is not such a big deal in Germany, as it is like in, especially America. But never mind. Third act. We're basically now in the realm, I think I said Reich in Lohengrin, I'm so sorry, in the realm of Tristan's parents who have died before his birth. And he's, well, deadly wounded, but he's alone. They brought him there basically to die, and he just has his valet Kurvenal with him. But Tristan can't die. He cannot die because Isolde is not at his side. And this is the only time in this, I don't know, 5-6 hour thing, with pauses, 5 hours probably. This is the only time in this 5 hour thing where Isolde is not on stage. She's the whole first act, the whole second act on stage, and the second half of the third act, but this is the only time when she's not. And he's basically dying for himself and retelling stuff and all this. And he says, I know Isolde will come, and this, then I can die, basically. And then he hears the horns that say that Isolde is coming, that her ship is coming near. And he is immediately physically stronger. You know this with people who are on the verge of dying, that they have like, they do one more thing. They've got this physical strength at the end of it. And this is his moment. He gets up, he says, I met Isolde while I had this bleeding wound. I'm gonna meet her again while I have this bleeding wound. And he gets off the bandages and he's happy and he's wonderful. And then she comes, and oh God. And if you don't cry at this scene, then I'm so sorry for you. But she comes to him and he runs to her and they fall in each other's arms. And in this production it is that they kind of come to kneel on the floor, and she embraces him, and she embraces him tightly, and he just goes limp and he dies in her arms. But she doesn't notice that because she's so happy. She's so happy that he's there, and she says, this is all gonna change now. Now we're gonna be a couple. This is good. We're gonna be it. It's wow. We're in love again. We're together again. And then she says, why don't you move? You should move. You can't have left me. You would never do this to me. Why have you left? This realization is, with her, with Waltraud Meier, is so horrible to watch, so heartbreaking. It really breaks my heart every time I see this. And she says, why didn't you wait for me? We wanted to do this together. I wanted to die alongside you. Why did you not wait? Why did you leave without me? And she tries to she lies down next to him and closes her eyes and embraces his body. And because we can't end this without having a great fight scene, there's basically Marke coming a few minutes later. And he's coming up, and like Kurvenal, Tristan's valet, says, no, I'm gonna defend this couple. I'm gonna defend this castle that they're currently in with my life. This is not happening. Shut up, bro. I'm gonna defend you all. And also Melot has had a change of heart or something, and they fight, and they basically almost everyone dies, which is also an honest, real thing they sing. Everyone's dead. The only one surviving is Marke, the king, who no one dared to attack, and Brangäne, the maid, who also no one dared to attack. So Brangäne immediately goes to Isolde and she says, oh, she's got a pulse, it's wonderful, wow, cool, great, super, she's alive, it's wonderful. And Marke was like, why didn't you stop? I wanted to give you to him. Obviously you've got this great love going on. I wanted to give you him, and you could have married and you could have been free. I wanted to forgive you too. And this makes it even more horrible than Romeo and Juliet, because they had no chance of reconciliation with their families. But Tristan and Isolde, they would have had the chance, and they lost it basically. And Isolde wakes up and he tells her all this stuff. She doesn't notice. She doesn't notice. She has what is called the death of love. She dies of a broken heart. She looks at Tristan, and she sees how he wakes up, how he stands up, how he looks at her. She describes all this beautifully in her death, 7 minutes. Es ist mild und leise, wie lächelt. And she's completely overwhelmed by this, by her emotions, by everything, and comes in waves. And I'm gonna say this, even though it might very well destroy the mood, but this is what's called a composed orgasm. I'm sorry. It's what it is. It's what they literally call it, her death. And it is, even though this is what it's called, it is so beautiful, because she's in this delirium and she sings about death, again in this very euphemistic tone, which we still can't know whether this is actually a thing or not. But she says all this stuff, and then in the end there are different things. In this one production she stays standing. There are also productions in which she tries to go to him, but she trips and then she falls before she can get to him. I personally always thought she would just lie down in his arms and die there. But it's simply beautiful. And I don't know, I can't really, this this kind of takes me a bit with it, because as I said, it is so beautiful. And you know, I'm normally a woman for like seconda donna, but not in this case. Isolde is one of the greatest roles that were ever written, ever, because she's got such depths. She's got so many emotions. She got so much text, obviously, but it's so beautiful. And at the end of this 2-hour things in which she's singing, she has to sing this, which is one of the hardest pieces in musical theatre history. And this is just so amazing to me, you know, to be able to write something like this, to be able to sing something like this. Was unsingable in the 19th century. It was the second, or the other favorite work of Wagner that Ludwig II has. And interestingly, and I'm just going to say to kind of round this out, is we don't know how he died. Basically, he was found in the lake near Munich, and we will never know how he died. Well, the Bavarian former monarchical family, they know, but we normal people will never know. And now we've got his two favorite Wagnerian works, in which in one his favorite character gets carried away over a lake, and in this it's the four last words that, or the four last mini phrases that Isolde sings. One of them is drowning. So this would be the Wagnerian way to go. To try to leave over the lake like Lohengrin did, and then drowning like Isolde did. So drowning metaphorically, of course, in Isolde's case. But anyway, this is such a beautiful piece, and I would really advise you to listen to it, to watch it. I know it can seem quite boring because it takes a lot of time, especially in the first act, to really get going, but you've heard now the pre-story. They have to tell all this stuff in the first act so that you can even understand what's happening later. And yeah, this is Tristan and Isolde. This is so beautiful, and I personally think this is better, oh god, I'm gonna say it, this is better than Romeo and Juliet. Because it's not just, I mean, how old was Juliet? 12? This is not just like teen love, but it's actual real deep love that didn't end even when they were parted over years, probably. And this, a love this deep, to say there's no way for us, we have to go, we have to die to be together, is, even though it's really horrible, it's also kind of romantic in a very, very horrible, morbid way. Anyway, what do we have to talk about in the last 5 minutes? I don't know, is the love potion. You might have already said, why do they even need a love potion? I thought they were in love all along. And the thing is that the most productions, they do not use the love potion because it's not necessary. There is like one production, I think, where they actually use the death potion, where they actually use the poison and then said they are dying very, very, very slowly over the other 2 acts, and she basically gets, well, she dies by it. But most of them don't use this at all, and they just fill it up with water or nothing, and they just say, kind of in a consoling way, just for a reason that you're like drawn to this guy now, you just drank a love potion. So in a way to say why this is happening. Rechtfertigen. Anyway, this is the production that I never saw because it was before I was born. Wonderful. This looks very horrible, and I agree. And I always just bought this because obviously it was with Siegfried Jerusalem and Waltraud Meier, who are up here. I don't know why he's before her. She has much more to sing anyway, but he's in the title before her. This production is not like the prettiest or the most aesthetically pleasing, let's say, but they make it up for with their acting. As I said, they are so good, so extremely, extremely wonderful, these two. I don't know, Siegfried Jerusalem, he should be 85 now, which is also kind of weird. This is why it's called Siegfried, by the way, because he was born during the Third Reich, and I think this is the first time I used the word Reich rightfully. He was born during the Third Reich, and as we all know, Hitler was a fan of Wagner, unfortunately, even though Hitler was far right and Wagner was far left. But he was born in 1940, so he got this old Germanic name, let's say like this. Anyway, I think this was it for Tristan and Isolde, and I hope you liked this episode. I hope I didn't get you to cry. Why should I? But anyway, I hope you like it, and I hope you will listen to it. I will probably do this again in the description, that I put my favorite version with these two in, and you can listen to it. I think I've said Jerusalem and Meier quite a lot of times, so you might also find this on Spotify on yourself, or maybe even via YouTube or something. I think this whole production is on YouTube, actually. Anyway, this was Tristan and Isolde, and, well, I hope you have liked it, and I hope you will watch it, or see it, or listen to it. Have a nice day. Bye.